She texted, "He has no clue who I really am. My poor, working-class boyfriend." Oops. The text arrived as I was on my break from my second job, a job I took to support her supposed hardships. I assumed she was mocking me with a friend. Then I looked at the recipient, her father. "Thank you for watching. Your support matters. Subscribe to stay connected." I, Owen, 34, male, had been with Serafina, 31, for 3 years. Our life was a study in gritty, romantic struggle in a small apartment in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was a paramedic, a job that filled my days with chaos and my soul with a quiet sense of purpose. It paid a respectable $75,000 a year. But it wasn't enough. So, 3 nights a week, I worked as a bartender, pulling pints for tourists in the old city. The extra income went to support Serafina. She had told me, a struggling artist. She came from a wealthy family of real estate moguls who had cut her off when she chose a life of art over the family business. My 2 jobs paid for our rent, our bills, and her expensive art supplies. I was proud to support her dream. I saw her as a brave, principled artist, and myself as the hardworking man who made her dream possible. The text message was a single, devastating crack in the foundation of that reality. It arrived while I was sitting in the alley behind the bar, exhausted, my hands smelling of stale beer and lime. The message was a betrayal not just of my trust, but of my sacrifice. My entire life, the long hours, the exhaustion, was not a partnership. It was a performance, and I was the only one who didn't have the script. Update 1, a week before the text, I had received a life-changing job offer. A private aeromedical company in San Diego, one of the best in the country, had offered me a position as a flight paramedic. The job came with a salary of $150,000, a regular schedule, and a chance to do the work I loved at the highest level. I had presented the offer to Serafina, my voice filled with an excitement I thought she would share. Her reaction was a performance of heartbreaking fragility. "San Diego? So far away?" she had asked, her eyes welling with tears. "But my work is finally getting noticed here. A gallery in Fishtown is looking at my portfolio. This is a real future for us, Sarah," I had urged. "You're asking me to give up on my dream, right when it's about to happen," she had replied, her voice a whisper. "You have to choose what's more important." Now, her words echoed with a chilling, new meaning. The night after I received her text, I sat in the quiet of my apartment and sent a single, decisive email. I accepted the position in San Diego. While Serafina slept, dreaming her false dreams, I began to build my exit. I opened a new bank account. I started documenting every dollar I had spent on her art career. And I started a deep, quiet dive into the public records of her father's real estate empire. I was a paramedic trained to assess a scene. And this scene was a crime. Update 2. The confrontation was quiet and deliberate. I waited until I had everything in place: my signed contract, my new apartment lease in San Diego, and a comprehensive file of her family's vast, publicly documented wealth. I found her in her studio, a corner of our living room filled with expensive, untouched canvases. "I've made a decision," I said, my voice calm. "I'm taking the job in San Diego. I'm leaving in 2 weeks." Her performance of shocked devastation was immediate. "You're abandoning me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "After everything I've sacrificed." "What, exactly, have you sacrificed?" I asked, my voice still even. She gave her ultimatum, the one she thought was her final, winning move. "If you walk out that door, you are choosing a job over me. Over us." "There is no us," I replied, my voice flat. "There is just you, and your father, and this strange, cruel game you're playing." The flicker of genuine shock in her eyes was the first honest thing I had seen from her in years. "I'm choosing to stop being a character in your story," I said. "And I'm going to start writing my own." Update 3. The fallout was a campaign of calculated, upper-class victimhood. She and her family told their circle of wealthy friends that I had been a charity case, a working-class project, who had ultimately proven to be unstable and ungrateful. They painted me as a man who had buckled under the pressure of their world. I did not respond. I moved out while she was at a yoga retreat, a trip I had paid for. I packed my old truck with my clothes. my books, and the few pieces of furniture that were mine. I left the apartment that had been the stage for her 3-year performance. The drive to San Diego was a long, sun-drenched journey away from the past. I moved into a small, clean apartment in a quiet neighborhood, a space that was entirely my own. My new job was a revelation. I was part of an elite team, doing challenging, life-saving work in the clear, blue skies of Southern California. The quiet, professional competence of my new colleagues was a world away from the constant, low-grade deception of my old life. I was no longer a patron of a false art. I was a practitioner of a real one. Update 4. My new life in San Diego was a study in quiet, focused competence. I excelled in the high-pressure world of aeromedical care. The work was demanding, but it was honest. I was saving lives, not funding lies. Back in Philadelphia, Serafina's performance continued, but her lead actor had gone off script. I heard through a former neighbor that she was still living in the old apartment, but that her career seemed to have stalled. The gallery in Fishtown, it turned out, had never heard of her. After my first 6 months in San Diego, my company awarded me a $10,000 bonus for my performance during a series of complex wildfire evacuations. I used it to hire a freelance journalist in Philadelphia, a sharp, hungry reporter who specialized in stories about the city's elite. I gave him the file I had been building, the text message, the financial records, the story of a real estate mogul's bizarre, cruel social experiment. Update 5. My company's quarterly magazine ran a feature on their new flight paramedic team. The article included a profile of me, the dedicated professional who had moved across the country for his dream job. It was a quiet, professional testament to my new life. The story was nothing compared to the one that was about to break in Philadelphia. The journalist I had hired published his piece in a popular online magazine. The article, titled, "The Heiress and the Paramedic: A Story of Poverty Cosplay," was a devastating, meticulously documented exposé of Serafina's long con. It was a viral sensation. The story, of course, was seen by Serafina and her father. The emails from her started the next day. They were a chaotic mess of rage, denial, and threats. She accused me of ruining her life. She had no idea that she had ruined her own life long ago. I was just the one who had finally turned on the lights. Update 6. She appeared at my apartment in San Diego. She looked like a ghost, her usual curated perfection replaced by a raw, desperate anger. "You destroyed me," she said, her voice a low hiss. I stood in the doorway, a calm, immovable object. "You built a life on a foundation of lies, Serafina," I replied. I just held up a mirror. "I've changed," she insisted, the words sounding hollow and rehearsed. "I see now that it was a mistake. I want to come back." "Come back to what?" I asked. "To the man you called your poor, working-class boyfriend, in a text to your billionaire father. The man whose 2 jobs you saw as a charming part of your performance. That man doesn't exist anymore. You killed him." I told her I had met someone, a fellow flight paramedic named Kate. It was the truth. "My life is real now," I said. "And there's no room in it for actors." Update 7. Her retaliation was a clumsy, pathetic attempt to regain control of the narrative. She filed a lawsuit against me for defamation and invasion of privacy. Her father, his reputation now a public joke, funded the legal battle. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman, found the entire affair almost comical. She filed a motion to dismiss, which included a mountain of evidence, my bank records, her text message, and sworn affidavits from the bartender colleagues who had witnessed me, working double shifts to support her struggle. The judge dismissed the lawsuit and sanctioned her and her father for filing a frivolous claim. Her online campaign was even less successful. She tried to rebrand herself as a victim of media persecution. But the story was too good, too deliciously ironic. She became a meme, a cautionary tale about the follies of the rich and bored. Update 8. A year later, my life was a study in quiet, hard-won peace. I had been promoted to lead flight paramedic. Kate and I had bought a small house with a yard for the dog we had adopted. Our life was a partnership, built on a foundation of shared sacrifice and brutal, beautiful honesty. I received one last, long, rambling email from Serafina. She was in therapy. She was finding herself. She was sorry, not for the lies, but for getting caught. I deleted it and went back to washing my old truck, a quiet, simple task that felt more real than anything in my old life had ever been. Final update: a few months ago, I was at a national emergency medical conference. After I gave a presentation, I was approached by an elderly man who introduced himself as a former business partner of Serafina's father. "I read that story about you and that family," he said, shaking his head. I wasn't surprised. I watched that man build an empire by treating real people's lives like pieces on a chessboard. He looked at me, a look of genuine respect in his eyes. You were the one piece he couldn't control. You refused to play the game. His words were the final, quiet validation. The lesson I had learned was about the nature of authenticity. Some people believe that life is a performance, that you can simply put on a costume and become someone else. But a real life is not a role you play. It is something you build, one honest day's work at a time. It is the quiet, unglamorous, and deeply satisfying truth of who you are when no one is watching. And that is a story worth telling.